Okay, so welcome to your study guide video. Please make sure that you're not just copying down these answers, but you're really trying to study it and you understand exactly what we're doing and you can replicate that tomorrow. Because if you look at a problem and you go, oh, that's how it's done, and that's all you really do, you're not really going to know it too well. So make sure, you watch this enough until it's sunk in, where you can predict the steps ahead of time, where you already know what I'm going to be doing next. That's when you'll be ready. So on the test, it looks the exact same thing as this. So keep that in mind. The test, you're going to have to do these 4 formulas. So write down the general formula. So this is, again, just one of those, did you memorize it? So let's start with slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is just simply y equals mx plus b. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. Slope formula is y minus y over x minus x, which is equal to m being what the slope represents. Some people say, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, to distinguish the difference between y's and x's, but you can say y minus y, x minus x, it's fine. And point slope formula, which is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So just memorizing those 4 is good. You will get some easy points for just memorizing them. But you're going to be using them a lot. So if you don't know how to at least get those formulas down, then you're probably not going to know how to do a lot of the stuff on this test. So let's start with the next problem, B, right? We have 2 points and we need to find the slope. So the slope, remember the slope formula was y minus y over x minus x. So we have 2 x's and 2 y's. We got 2 points, right? Each point has an x and a y. So we're going to take, I always like to take the second point and subtract the first one. So I'll do the y here minus the y there. So negative 5 minus 7. And then I'll do it the other way around as well for the x's. Negative 12 minus 6. So notice I started with this point. So I have the negative 5 first on the top and the negative 12 first on the bottom. You could do it the other way, but the 7 would have to be first on top and the 6 would have to be first on bottom. Just keep that in mind. So it's good either way, but the y minus y, the x minus x, we end up here simplifying this to negative 12 over negative 18, which 2 negatives cancel, make it positive. This is either positive, you can write 2/3 or 0.6 repeating. But, I would just say let's just leave it at 2/3. But either way is fine. But it's not negative. It is a positive 2/3. So if you put a negative, you'll definitely get points marked off. So just be mindful of it's a negative over a negative, then it's simply just a positive number. All right, now let's get into graphing. So the first one is just slope-intercept form. So we know that the slope is negative 2/3. And the y-intercept is 3. So we're going to start with the y-intercept, which is at 3. So we look at the y-axis and we go find 3, and that's here. And then we follow the slope. Negative 2/3 means down 2 and right 3. So we have a point there, here, right? Just counting down 2 squares and right 3 squares. And if you want to go backwards, up 2 and left 3. And there's your line. Okay, so all the information is there for you. It tells you where to start, the y-intercept being 3, and it tells you where to go. Rise and run, slope negative 2/3. So the next one, there's actually 2 ways you can go about graphing this. Now, I would recommend you study this and do it the way I'm going to show you first, which I think is easier. Finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So x-intercept, y-intercept. Now, in order to find the x and the y-intercept, here's what you do. If you want to find the x-intercept, then eliminate this y term and just solve the equation 2x equal to 12. 2x equal to 12. And if you want to find the y-intercept, then eliminate the x term and find the y Solve the y equation. Negative 3y equals to 12. Negative 3y equals 12. So one is the 2x equal to 12, and the other is a negative 3y equal to 12. And so when you solve this one here, when you divide by 2, x is going to equal 6. And this other one, when you divide by negative 3, y is going to equal negative 4. My pen is it's kind of messing up a little bit here, so apologize for that. But you get an x value that equals 6, y value that equals negative 4, and then you can just plot those points. So go to 6 on the x-axis, which will put you about here. And then negative 4 on the y-axis, which puts you about here. And then you can just connect them, and you have your line. The other way of doing that problem, which I guess I'll kind of write up here, 2x minus 3y equals 12. It's just rearranging it. So you would subtract the 2x to move it over. You'd have negative 3y equals negative 2x. Again, my pen's kind of breaking. Equals, plus 12. Sorry, plus 12. And then divide by negative 3. And if you divide by negative 3, you end up with y equal to positive 2/3 x minus 4. And you could solve that equation. It's the same equation that we just graphed. It has the y-intercept at negative 4, and it goes up 2/3. So it's the exact same line, just a different way of graphing it. And then our last one is a pretty easy one. I think the second one there, the second graph is probably the hardest one. This one, we have our slope, which is 1/4. Slope, which is 1/4. And we have a point as well, because it's a point-slope equation. The point is our x and our y. So our x value is a negative 8, because remember the opposite. And our y value is a positive 1, because again, opposite. So a negative 8 and a positive 1. So we're going to plot that point first. So we're going to find negative 8, positive 1, which is here. Keep in mind, on tomorrow's test, if you write down this information, but you end up graphing it wrong, I can still give you some partial credit. So don't just write a graph. Write the information you're getting to graph it, like write down the slope and write down the point. Because if you end up graphing it wrong, I can still give you some credit if you have this correctly. So just make sure you're writing out everything you can write out. All right, so there's our starting point. Now we follow the slope 1/4. Slope 1/4 means rise 1 and run 4. So up 1 and right 4 puts you here, 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 and so on. Right, and then go backwards 1 as well. Oops, that's down too far. Right there. All right, and there's your line. So remember, we started at this point at negative 8, positive 1, and then we counted our slope up 1/4 to trace out the rest of those points. All right. Question D. Write the 3 forms of linear equation on of a line given the points negative 4, negative 9, 4, negative 3. So whenever you're given 2 points, the first thing that should come to your mind, just by instinct, should be the slope formula. You got to think, we're probably going to have to find the slope here, and you'd be right. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is find the slope. So remember, it's y minus y and x minus x. So I'm going to do the second ones minus the first ones. So y is going to be negative 3 minus negative 9. That's this y value minus this y value. And then my x's will be 4 minus negative 4, which is this y value minus this one. So remember, I'm taking both of these and subtracting both of these. And when I solve that, I end up with positive 6/8, which is equal to either 3/4 or 0.75. So if you want to use the decimal version of this, you can. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm going to use decimal version of it just to make it easier. So now I have enough information to go ahead and write my equation. I can go ahead and write the point-slope equation. Now, these are written in this order for a reason, because you're going to fill them in this order. You're going to start with the point-slope, because that's what you can do first. And then you can make slope-intercept and then standard in that order. So the point-slope formula, remember, was y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So if we just plug in the correct numbers, it doesn't matter which of these points you use. So let's use this one, I guess. The y value here is negative 3, which means when I plug it in, it'll be like y plus 3. My x value here was 4, so when I plug it in, it'll look like x minus 4. And then my slope, remember, is over here. I calculated it. It's 3/4 or 0.75. So let's put in 0.75, so equals 0.75. And there's your equation, okay? So remember, we did the math here to get the slope, but to actually write the equation out, it really didn't do anything other than just plug numbers in the formula, right? So now the equation that we have is y plus 3 equals 0.75 x minus 4. That's the equation. So if we want to get slope-intercept or standard form, we just rearrange this equation. So here's what we do to rearrange it. We do 2 steps in order to get to slope-intercept form. So step 1, distribute. So distributing to get rid of these parentheses. So that gives us y plus 3 equal to 0.75x. And then 0.75 times 4 is 3, so minus 3. The second step would be move number by the y. So when you have a point slope equation, you're always going to have a number here next to y. And this is the time when you need to move that number to the other side of the equal sign. So we'll subtract 3 to cancel that out. And that leaves you y equals 0.75x minus 6. And now there you go. There's your slope-intercept equation. Y equals 0.75x minus 6. And then there's only one more step to get it into standard form, which is to move the x term. So standard form has both the x term and the y term on the same side. So if I move the x term to the side with the y on it, then it'll be in standard form. Since it's a positive term, I'm going to subtract this term to move it. And that means in my equation, you can write it 2 ways. Y minus 0.75x equals negative 6, or negative 0.75x plus y equals negative 6. Either way, it's the same thing. But these are your standard forms. All right, now we have the word problems. Let's see here. What time is it? Okay, we got time. All right, so for these word problems, remember we're going to write the equation and then the solution of these as well. So let's see here. Okay. So remember, these questions are the same questions that you're going to see on tomorrow's test. Just keep that in mind. So whatever we do here, you can replicate and do it tomorrow as well. So problem number 1. You're buying $48 worth of 2 types of lawn seed. Ryegrass lawn seed sells for 70 cents per pound, and fescue lawn seed sells for $1.15 per pound. If you bought 25 pounds of fescue lawn seed, write and solve the linear equation to find the amount of ryegrass lawn seed purchased. All right. So we have $48. We're buying $48 worth, and they sell for 0.7 per pound and 1.15 per pound. Now, we're going to buy 25 pounds of fescue. So that's going to be part of the solution. But to make the equation, and remember, this is very similar for tomorrow's test. We have 2 products that combined gives us a total. So when you have 2 products that combine to give you a total, here's what you're going to write it as. We'll have 0.7. Let me just put in the equation part. 0.7x plus 1.15y equals 48. Just to explain this, the x is going to represent the ryegrass lawn. So it's 0.7, or you can write 0.7 or 0.70 if that looks better to you, right? 70 cents for the ryegrass pounds, and then $1.15 per fescue pound. So x is going to represent the ryegrass, and then the y is going to represent the fescue. And then remember, that adds up to be a total of $48 because we're buying $48 worth. So that's the equation. Now the solution is the plugging in 25 pounds of fescue. Now remember, we use the y to represent fescue, so we're going to plug the 25 in for the y value to solve it. So we have 0.70x plus 1.15 times 25 pounds equal to 48. So we just got to get a calculator and solve this. So 1.15 times 25 is 28.75. So you have 0.70x plus 28.75. Not y, the y is gone, equal to 48. So now we subtract 28.75. Let's see. So that gives us 1925. So 0.70x equals 19.25. And then divide by 0.7. Oops. And we get 27.5. So x equals 27.5. So we would buy 27.5 pounds of the ryegrass, I suppose. So there you go. Now the second word problem. Second word problem, probably the hardest of the four, but it's very similar to the equation we solved a second ago. Or was it like this when we were doing these? It's very similar to how we set that one up. So remember what we're seeing here in this problem, because you will have the same thing on tomorrow's test. Jeff's keeping track of his weight over several weeks. After 2 weeks, he weighs 194 pounds. After 6 weeks, he weighs 186 pounds. That information there is ordered pairs. 2 weeks to 194 pounds is a point, and 6 weeks to 186 pounds is a point, where your x is weeks and your y is pounds. So we're given that information, and you will be given that information again tomorrow as well. So make sure you understand what it translates into as far as points. So we're going to have to make an equation from this. So given the fact that I have these 2 points, my instinct, remember, should be to come up with the slope. I should use the slope formula to find the slope first. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to find the slope, y minus y. So we're going to do the top point minus the bottom point. So we're going to do 194 minus the 186 because those are the y values, and then 2 minus 6 because those are the x values, which gives me 8 over negative 4, which equals negative 2. So my slope is negative 2. Now remember, my slope's negative 2, and I have these points, so it makes sense to make a point-slope equation. So there's 2 ways you can write the point-slope equation. Let me write them down here. You can either write y minus 194 equals negative 2x minus 2, or you can have y minus 186 equals negative 2x minus 6. So obviously the slope's the same. They're both negative 2 in here because obviously we calculated the slope is negative 2. But this one uses the first point, and the second equation uses the second point. You only need one of them, obviously, but I'm saying there's 2 possible ways you could choose to write it. So either one of those would be good for writing the equation up here. Okay, there you go. You get the idea. Now the solution, we have to plug the 12 in, 12 weeks. Now remember, what we said earlier about our points is we said that x was weeks. So if x is weeks, then this 12 we're going to plug in to the x. So it doesn't matter which equation you pick here. Either one should give you the same answer. I'm going to pick the first one. So y minus 194 equals negative 2. And then I'm plugging in 12 for the x. So 12 minus 2. And so when I solve this, I end up with y minus 194 equal to, now 12 minus 2 is 10. And 10 times negative 2 would be negative 20. So I'm just going to skip a few steps and write negative 20. Then you add the 194 to the other side, and you end up with y equal to 174. So 174 pounds after 12 weeks. All right. So remember, the slope, then write a point-slope equation, and then plug the 12 in to x, or plug in whatever the value is for x for the number of weeks. All right, the third one, this is a very easy one. The landscape supply company charges $30 to deliver mulch, so $30 delivery fee, plus 23 per cubic yard. So the equation here is y equals 23x plus 30, or you could write it, of course, as 30 plus 23x. Just as long as the 23x is there and the 30 is there, you're good. So $23 per cubic yard, and then the $30 delivery fee. So there's your equation. It's that simple to write. And then for 8 cubic yards, you simply plug that 8 in to solve it. So y equals 23 times 8 plus 30. So let's calculate that. 23 times 8 equals 184 plus 30 is 214. So just like that, that problem is done. So again, very simple problem, very similar to the one you have on tomorrow's test. So just be ready. And then the last one. So Karen used a birthday check her mother gave her to start a savings account. She plans to save $25 a month as well. Now, the $25 per month, you have to pay attention closely here because that is a slope amount. The slope is $25 per month. So study that, pay attention to that, because that's going to be something you're going to have to find for tomorrow as well, the slope that is given to us in this problem. We're also given 8 months. Karen has $250. You have to recognize that this is a point. 8 months, $250. That coincides together as a point. So we have a point and we have a slope from what we're given here. $25 per month is a slope. 8 months, $250 is a point. So I'm going to write a point slope equation from this. Y minus 250, since 250 is my y, equals my slope, which is 25, x minus 8. So I just plug the x value into my x place, my y value into my y place, and my slope into my slope place. So it's just, remember, if you know the formula, you're just plugging these numbers in. Out of the solution, write and solve a linear equation to find the original check amount. So original check amount means time at the beginning, which means 0 months. 0 months is the beginning. Okay? So if it asks that tomorrow, right, the original check amount, original check means at the beginning, which means 0 months. 0 months means plugging 0 in to x, because remember, x represents months, because 8 months, 8 is x, right? We're plugging the 0 in for x. So we have y minus 250 equals 25, and then 0 minus 8. So when we solve this, it's 25 times negative 8. 25 times negative 8 is negative 200. And then when you add 250, we end up with y equal to 50. So the original check was worth $50. And that's it. That's the whole study guide. So watch everything you need to, as many times as you need to, and study. Everything on the test is just like what I just covered. I basically just did the test for you. So now it's just up to you. Can you replicate it on your own? Can you do what we just did? So just take the time and study. And good luck on tomorrow. See you guys.